Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am here today to revisit my preseason predictions, look at what's gone right, what's gone wrong, and see where we go from here. Start off with the Elks this time. Preseason, I had them 6-12. Now, looking at it, that seems a bit generous. They'd have to go 5-3 over the last 8 just to get to that mark. Certainly, there were some winnable games that this team has had and just not been able to close out on. Could be looking a lot different, especially with the playoff chances right now. But at least right now, it seems like there is a glimmer of hope. Some changes have been made. The team is finally playing competitive football. But that's kind of how we felt at the end of last season, too. And I did question not addressing the offensive line if that was going to come back to haunt them. In season, they've made some adjustments and improved. But I think, yeah, this team was just too far into the year whenever the right buttons got pushed. And while the place in the West seems like it might end up correct, I had Edmonton at the bottom. Seems like I was not exactly close, but in the vicinity. Moving up, I had Calgary at 8-10 coming into the season and getting the crossover spot. They have underperformed relative to the expectations that I had. Jake Mayer has struggled at points this season. And games that in previous years you'd think they'd win, like their game at home against the Riders, their game at home against Ottawa, they didn't finish those games. And that puts them in the middle of the hunt for the last playoff spot, but definitely not a team that I have a ton of confidence in to get it. But you never know. We'll see. Moving up, I had the Riders at 9-9. And right now they look right about on track for that. Just finished 500. They've had some pretty significant injuries this season, but they've fought through it and they should be pretty solid in the playoff conversation right now. Moving up, I had the BC Lions at 12-6. They currently sit at 7-3 coming into week 12, that is. And there are times they have certainly looked like a Grey Cup contending team, and other games where it looks like they're just kind of lost. Most of those happen on the road. I mean, all those road losses that they've had, they've just been brutalized. Obviously, in Toronto, they did it to themselves with all the interceptions and then just absolutely got blasted in Winnipeg in the loss there. I just couldn't complete the comeback in Saskatchewan, but 12, maybe 13 wins is probably where they end up. I had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 14-4. They currently sit at 8-2. They have a chance to get to 14 wins. I think it will be a little difficult. Obviously, it depends on how healthy Zach Collaros can stay the rest of the year. But I do think that first spot in the West and the opportunity to host the conference final, it's going to come down to the wire for the Lions and the Bombers. Moving out east, I had Hamilton at 10-8 coming into the year. I thought there was potential for their quarterback situation. It just has not panned out that way at all. And they're just in the mix of mediocre to bad teams trying to get that last playoff spot. They don't look like they'd be much of a threat once they got there, if they do. So currently sitting at 3-6, 10 wins, looks like it's not going to happen for them. Meanwhile, I underestimated the Argos. I wasn't sure what kind of season Chad Kelly was going to have in his first full year starting in the CFL. Obviously, he's exceeded all expectations, and the rest of the team around him has been very solid. They look like they could probably get to 13 or 14 wins, should run away with the first spot in the East. But not too far behind them are the Montreal Alouettes at 6-3. However, they're dealing with injury problems of their own, and I have to admit, Montreal seems like a team I always underestimate, but they just find ways to put together solid seasons year in, year out. Cody Fajardo has definitely exceeded my expectations, and they look like a lock for that second spot at worst out east. And then lastly, we've got the Red Blacks, who I had at 5-13. Thought they were really going to struggle to get their quarterback situation ironed out. And Bob Dice, wasn't sure how he'd fare his first year as a coach. I thought there was going to be some struggles, though I knew there was some talent on this team. And they're just staying alive in that playoff hunt. We'll see how they can pan out, but I would certainly say they're not the worst team in the league. I think right now they're a better team than Hamilton is, even though Hamilton has beaten them twice. Both were kind of fluky games, and just even the inconsistent quarterback play that you see out of Dustin Crum and the Red Blacks exceeds that we see out of Hamilton. You look at the rest of the roster of those two teams, is Hamilton better? Debatably. Mainly, Hamilton is just carried by James Butler and Tim White when they can get him the ball. But yeah, so there were some teams I definitely was a little high on, some teams I was a little low on, and others I was pretty close on. So that's a brief look back. We'll definitely see if my predicted order of finish is ultimately how it pans out. Out west, I think there's a decent chance it will happen. In the east, pretty much no chance of it happening. But that's the fun of making predictions sometimes. Just got to have fun with it and don't take it too seriously. Own up to it if you're wrong, which, looking back, it's what I'm doing right now. But at the end of the day, it's just all in good fun. Let's not take it all too seriously. Just have fun with it. Well, I'll see you all after the Elks game this weekend for my reaction video. Until then, have a good one.